Hey guys, this is Ambasa here from Oracle Institute. Today's topic is Oracle parameter file and parameters. We'll understand about how this topic has to note. There are many more points, but I have just mentioned here the few points. Many things we have to discuss, but again just given a quick introduction point of view. So heading, as you already noted, that there is a Oracle parameter file plus the parameters. Now, how many types of parameter files? Obviously, you have to tell there are two types of parameter. One of them is called SPFile, stands for server parameter file. The short form is SPFile, but the full form is server parameter file. And what is the second one? It's a P file, but it is sometimes called initialization parameter file. But we call it as a P file. It is a P file. It is sometimes parameter file, but it is sometimes called initialization parameter. Now, how it works? Let's go ahead and discuss the same. First of all, you need to note that where is my SP file or P file get stored by default. You have to tell the answer would be inside my Oracle software location. It is called variable name called Oracle home and the dollar which will fetch the variable value. Inside this main folder under Oracle home software location path, there is a subfolder called DBS. So inside this directory, you will see there is a file naming convention would be SPFile SID.ora. Again, what is that SP stands with? Obviously server parameter, and again file. So hence it is called server parameter file, and here the SID stands for system identifier. What is the SID stands for? It is a system identifier, nothing but your instance name. Same way, if I want to understand what are my P file naming convention, this P file also again in the same location. Inside my Oracle home, there is a DBS subfolder. Inside this subfolder, you will see init SID.ora is what the naming convention of your P file. Init stands for initialization. This is how you need to note here. It is a init SID.ora. It is sometimes called P file. It is sometimes called it's a P file. But while pronunciation, it has to be initialization parameter file. Now, out of these two, which one will be considered to be read first if both are exist? If both are exist, you have to tell the priority will be given to SP file. Why is it so? Because it's a binary file, and the P file is a text file, so hence it is not given that much priority. So out of these two, if one of the question asked if both are exist, then which file will be considered? Obviously, you have to tell the SP file will be considered. But if SP file is not exist, then only it will look for the P file. The common further lot of questions would be, can I keep my SP file in different location? Obviously, yes, it's possible. Can I give the SP file naming convention different? Yes, it's possible. But during startup, I have to mention those further extra options. Those are again not good options, but you have to remember that it's possible that I can use my P file different naming convention. I can keep it in different location. I can give a different name, but those are all not a good option because we need to again provide during startup those further options, where it is located, what is the naming convention, full path, and the file name you have to provide it. And that's what, to avoid those, you need to keep it in this default location plus as per the naming convention what it has been defined. One is SP file, what you have to say, SP file SID.ora, and here SID stands with system identifier, is nothing but your instance name. And the other one is the P file, init SID.ora. That's what you have to note at the beginning, what the point is mentioned here. How many types of parameter files in Oracle database instance? You have to tell there are two types of parameter file. But what exactly those parameter files get stored? Obviously, the answer would be the clearly mentioned here, the parameters. These parameters will be stored in these parameter files. It can be a SP file, it can be a P file, whichever you are interested to use it. So which is the best one? Obviously, you have to tell SP file is the best one because it's a runtime modifiable by using ultra system command. Whereas P file, I need to open it again, I need to remember those all value whatever I need to change it during the next startup, they get affected. But whereas SPFile runtime, if anything you wanted to modify it, that gets remembered. Hence the precedence or the best practice says that better to go with SPFile. That's just a point to note. In the production, we prefer to go with SPFile because of, one is it's a binary file, the other one is it's a runtime changes whatever the value you have modifying in this SPFile, it gets remembered or stored in the next startup. I don't need to again refer the starting point. Hence it is so precedence is the or priority or the best practices, better to go with SPFile. The next point may be expected. If one of them is lost, let's say SPFile is lost, can I create it? Yes, you can create the SPFile from PFile. We can create a PFile from SPFile. We can create a PFile from memory. Like that, there are multiple further combinations are the answer. Maybe once they may ask, if you lost one of them, then how do you go ahead and prepare it or create it? That's the expected question. Now inside this parameter file, as I said, it gets stored the parameters. Now what are the types of parameters? Obviously there are again the types of parameter would be static parameter and dynamic parameters. There is again further discussion on why it is called, or what is the meaning of static, what is the meaning of dynamic, and how they are differ from each other or how they are different from each other. That's what we will be discussing along with practical. So here you have to note down that, consider an example, you have started your instance with SPFile. Consider an example, you said that we started my instance using SPFile. In that case, if I want to modify my parameters, their value, and there is the options I supposed to use it, the scope options. The scope has again for the three values. Doing this scope defining, I can define scope is equal to SPFile, or I can define scope is equal to memory, or I can define scope is equal to both. And what is the default? Obviously you have to tell the default is scope is equal to both. The question comes here, what is the difference between SPFile or memory or both, and which one is a good option and when to use which one? Obviously you have to understand those further combinations. And remember this point only when applicable when you are using SPFile. And if you are using a PFile, then you can use a alter system set, but those are setting would be only at the memory level, not at the file level. Hence it is a reason why we don't go with PFile. And that's how you need to answer in a going forward. Maybe they may ask why SPFile is better than PFile. The answer would be, whenever you use alter system command, that cannot be updated this file. Which file? Initialization parameter file, sometime called PFile. So you have to again open the manually this file, again modify the parameters and again save it, so that you did one command in alter system command and one you have to go ahead and modify manually. Those are double work. So that double work not to do is what the better options would be, go for SPFile. This is how you need to start your understanding about this topic, Oracle parameter file and the parameters. Now here, as I mentioned that scope options, what I mentioned here, there are three options in it. Now here this says that if I mention scope is equal to memory, like this. If I mention scope is equal to memory, where it is updating, obviously it is updating the started instance or current running instance only in the memory level. If you do some changes in the memory level, if you start my instance, then those values will be erased or will not be reconsidered. So that means it is the only up to the current running instance will be applicable, those parameter value what you have changed, but not all possible this value can be done with the memory options. An example, if you go with a parameter, sometime you can see there some of the example which I am talking about. One is called control underscore files. So I want to change my control file path. Can I possible to use this scope is equal to memory? Answer no, because it is not the option where you can go ahead and runtime possible to change. So there are possibility of runtime you can change it, those are only I can use it memory options. If you are not possible those memory parameters runtime possible to change, then you can't go with the memory options. That's what you need to remember. Now here what I just mentioned, if you bit understand further, static means required restart of the instance to take effect. What it says? Static means required restart of the instance to take an effect of the changed value of the parameter. Let's say if you want to do some changes, the static says that I need a restart. Static says that you want to change those values to be affected, it need a restart. So hence the example would say that I wanted to update the current moment. I say that I want to update where? In my SP file. This moment I will update it, but I will take it that consideration of the new value in the next startup. Hence next startup, if I want to take consideration of those parameter value changed, you need to go with the options called scope is equal to SPFile. This is what the purpose why we go with the scope is equal to SPFile. The scope says that where you want to update. I want to update in SPFile, or I want to update in the current running instance, depends on where you wanted to update. I said okay, I want to update only SPFile. The reason behind that parameter right now at the memory level can't be changed. Hence we need to remember that the only this option, which options? The scope is equal to SPFile is the only options available in case of static parameter. But how many scope options has the value? One is the memory, one is the SPFile, one is both. So hence it is called the both can't be used in the static parameter. Reason, again it says that the parameter cannot be changed immediately. Hence you need to remember, if I want to go with the changing the static parameters, then my only the options available would be scope is equal to SPFile. That's what you need to note. Let's say if there is a dynamic parameter. What is the dynamic means? The immediate taken effect of the changed value of the parameter. And important what we said, not required a restart. So if you say that it is an instance required a restart, you have to tell it's a downtime required. That means your application has to be stopped and your things has to be changed. Again, you have to restart your instance. Again, application has to correct. So this stopping, starting, application will stop, start. These are all called downtime. So we sometimes called instance bounce is required, restart is required. So hence, if it is static, yes, it's required. Dynamic, it's not required. It's clearly mentioned. Not required a restart of your instance to change the parameter value of your dynamic parameters. Some example I have it, so I'll just give you with practical for the same. But just since it is just beginning, I'm just going ahead with the first theory part to cover. Now in this example, what I said that how do you confirm whether it is static or dynamic? How do you say it's a static or dynamic? You have to say that this is the column name. What is the column name? Is sys modifiable. It's again question wise we are asking in this view. There is a column called is sys modifiable. Sys stands for system level. Is system level modifiable? If the column value says false, that means it is called, what you have to remember, it is called static parameter. What it says, if this column value is sys modifiable, output value says it's a false, that means it is a static parameter. And if this column value, if it is immediate, then you have to call it as it's a dynamic parameter. This is how you need to answer the parameters, whether it is a static or dynamic. How do you confirm? So you have to tell that okay, I will go ahead and confirm whether it is static or whether it's dynamic by checking this column in this particular view for that respective parameter. An example, you take this an example about I wanted to verify it. What I wanted to verify, let's say example, I wanted to verify here this parameter, control underscore files. This is the parameter name. And what I wanted to note, is this parameter static or dynamic? And then I'm just saying that okay, in this view, this column output, if it says false, that means it is a static parameter. What do you call it? It's a static parameter. And if this parameter says, an example, if you take one more parameter, let's say this one, DB recovery file test. This is a one more parameter, and if this parameter says that is sys modifiable column value output, if it says that it's immediate, that means it's supposed to call dynamic. This is how you have to tell whether is it static or dynamic. How do you confirm it? You have to tell by checking in this column with respect to those parameters. I can verify it very easily. Very easily we can verify it. If this column value is false, it is called static parameter. If this column value says immediate, it is called a dynamic parameter. Now overall, up to this point, what we have discussed, we just discussed here. The main topic says parameter file plus the parameters. File point of view, there are two types of files, SPFile and the PFile. So SPFile would be in this naming convention and the PFile would be in this naming convention. SPFile SID.RAW, on PFile it's like a init SID.RAW. What about the parameters? Yes, it can be a static parameter, it can be a dynamic parameter. This parameter file will store these parameters, and these parameters are static, required instance restart to take an effect, the parameter value, and the dynamic doesn't require a Oracle instance restart to take an immediate effect of those parameter value what you have been changed. Hence these are supposed to be called it's a static or dynamic. How do you confirm that? Yes, so we can go ahead and confirm that parameter VDOR parameter is the view name, where you can say in this particular view where there is a column name called is sys underscore modifiable. If this parameter value column value output says false, it's called static parameter. If it says immediate, it is called dynamic parameter. While updating, you have to remember, if I am using SPFile, then scope options will be referred. The scope can be a memory where the value will be updated only in the memory level. If you start instance, that value whatever has been changed will not take an effect for the next start. What about my scope is equal to, if I mention the SPFile, then it will only update SPFile, it will not maintain in the current running instance. So those are applicable for your static kind of a parameters. The last but least, that's a default called scope is equal to both. If scope is equal to both, then it is applicable to current running instance. Also the modifiable value will be reflected, plus it will update in the SPFile, so that next startup, if you start, it gets referred this particular SPFile, and then it takes those values. So you want to update both sides, the current memory level plus SPFile level, then you can go with scope is equal to both. As I mentioned, SPFile, if you have it, then you have three options. If you have PFile, then you have only one option, that is scope is equal to memory, because the scope is not applicable for PFile because it's not updating PFile. You have to manually open the PFile and update it. Hence, that is the reason we said that better don't go with a PFile, better to have it SPFile. That's how the topic starts, and you need to understand the points one by one, and you need to do again concentrate on the practical part. That's it for this video. I'll take the next session about how do you do this all stuff with practically. Thank you for watching this video. Take care and bye bye.